Hi guys, welcome back to the Artist server. We're continuing the part 7, second part of part 7 of the R710 build series here. So in the last part we installed Proxmox VE 6.1 on the R710 and set up storage, got rid of the subscription pop-up message, and made sure the system was up to date. And so now this particular video is going to be focusing on installing the Nvidia driver in Proxmox. And the reason I'm doing this is because I have a Quadro P2000 installed in this R710 right now, and I want to be able to use it, so I need the Nvidia drivers for it. And this isn't being used for graphics output because the R710 by default will use its onboard video controller for that. But what I'm trying to accomplish here is to use the graphics card for GPU acceleration applications. So for example, if you wanted to run some virtual machines or containers and run applications that use CUDA, for example, you might want to do this. The specific application that we're going to try out and demonstrate here is actually to set up PLEX with GPU hardware transcoding. So that will be in a separate video, but the first thing in order to get there is that we need to install the drivers, the Nvidia drivers, for the graphics card inside Proxmox, the host, the Proxmox host machine itself. And I separated this out into its own video because I realized the process was a little bit complicated, and so I kind of felt like it deserved its own little segment here. Alright, so you'll see here I'm in front of the Proxmox login, and this is the virtual console through the iDRAC. And unfortunately, most of the things we're going to have to do today are done through the command line. And so for those of you who are not familiar, I'll try to explain things as I go so you'll kind of understand how to go about this. So anyway, hang in there with me. Let's first start by logging in to the Proxmox server here on the command line. So I'll go ahead and open up a terminal program here, and this is we're going to SSH into the box basically. So it's root at in my case it's 245. Okay. Alright, so all we have to do is enter the password and we are in. Alright, so let me go ahead. We don't need the virtual console at this point, so I'll just go ahead and minimize that. And the first thing we want to do is we have to install the kernel headers because the Nvidia driver installation has to build itself a little bit, and so we need some of that information. So first thing, we need to figure out what kernel we're running. So we'll run uname-r. And so we're running Linux kernel 5.3.10-1-PVE. Alright, so this is basically the 5.3.10 Linux kernel with probably some Proxmox specific configuration choices or whatnot. Alright, so once we know that, we run apt cache. Now, I'll admit to you guys, I'm not really a Debian user, and I mentioned that because Proxmox is based on the Debian Linux distribution. So I'm not super familiar with the commands that are specific to Debian. I'm more of kind of a Red Hat CentOS guy with RPMs and all that stuff. But all my Russian friends seem to enjoy Debian, so hey, let's give this a try. Alright, so we'll run a apt cache search and we'll look for PVE headers or header. Alright. So we want to find the package that matches the kernel that we're running. So we're running 5.3.10-1-PVE, and we see that right here. Alright, and that's the one we're going to want to install. So we'll do apt-get install and basically paste that in place. So this will download the Debian package for the kernel that we're running, the PV headers package, and install it. Alright, so now that we have that installed, we need to go download the Nvidia driver. So the easiest way to find this, rather than searching through Nvidia's website, I often find that if you just do Nvidia driver Linux download and do a Google search, that tends to get you to the right page quicker than trying to navigate through Nvidia's website. So we'll click on that, and well, okay, this looks a little bit old. Alright, well maybe that was not the best link to click on. Let's go for Unix drivers here, maybe that'll help. Alright, so here we have Linux, 64-bit, latest long-lived branch, version 440.36. I think that is the latest and greatest version of the Nvidia driver that's compatible for this graphics card. So remember again, I have a Quadro P2000 in here, so let's just double check that that's a supported product. I believe it is. It's fairly recent. So here's the Quadro series. Let's see, Quadro P2000 right there. Alright, so for sure this is the right driver for the graphics card that I'm using. If you're using something else, especially if it's an older card, you'll want to just double check, because the older cards have a different driver. Alright, so we'll go ahead and click on download here, and then it gets us to the end user license agreement, and you're supposed to read this and all that stuff, but you know what, I'm not going to worry about that right now. The key thing is the link that is behind this button here, and instead of downloading this to my desktop and then uploading to the server, I'm just going to right click and copy the link address, and we're just going to download it directly with wget and paste. Alright, so now the Nvidia driver is downloaded directly to the Proxmox server. Let's add, well here, I'll just change the permissions to the Nvidia downloaded script, and basically we just run this. But you know what, at this particular step, I'm going to run it in the console here. Alright. Okay, and the reason for this is that this install script, so you know, we can go ahead and minimize the browser here. This install script does quite a few things, and I don't really want the to do this over a network connection, because if it does fail, I'm concerned that the install process will abort midway, and that could lead to a messy situation. So anyway, I'm going to do it within the Java KVM app, so that if this disconnects, that's fine, it still keeps running. Alright, so let's go ahead and hit enter here and run this installer. Now, by the way, while this is running, there are many ways to install the Nvidia drivers in Debian. This is Debian 10, I believe, that Proxmox is based on. And let's see, oh, the Nouveau kernel driver is currently in use. This driver is incompatible. Okay, yeah, we'll deal with that in a second here. But there are many ways to install the Nvidia driver. And there are pre-built packages for the Nvidia drivers that are available for Debian as well that you could use. But I found that basically a lot of those packages have older versions of the driver. And I want to work with the latest and greatest right now. So, and there's a reason for that, though. You'll see in the next video when we get to actually making use of the GPU for PLEX GPU transcoding. But anyway, I want to use the latest greatest version of the driver, which is the 440.36 that we see here. And I couldn't find any packages that were pre-built for Debian that would work here. So that's why I'm just going to go ahead and just install it from Nvidia's script. Alright, so this is complaining that the open source driver for the Nvidia card basically is loaded right now, and it doesn't like that. So I'll go ahead and hit OK here. And so it gives you an option to basically set up a blacklist, to blacklist the open source Nvidia driver. So you can go ahead and say yes to this. And this does work actually, by the way. And I'll show you what it actually does. Okay, one working unit has been written. So okay, so yeah, this is exactly what it does here. Yeah, so it adds this file, nvidia installer disable nouveau.com or .conf, or I think it does it in nvidia-modprobe. So here, let's take a look and just confirm where it's actually doing this. User lib modprobe nvidia, yeah. So it puts that file in there, and basically you'll see that it just blacklists that driver from loading, and it also does it in modprobe d nvidia install. So yeah, basically the same thing. So now this doesn't automatically unload the driver. You know, if you want this these files to take effect, you do have to reboot, but we're going to do that anyway in a second here. So all right, so I'll go ahead and click OK. Okay, it says installation has failed. Yeah, okay, so it's not liking the fact that the driver is still there. Let's see if we can remove it. All right, so I'm going to just manually remove the driver. All right, it's gone now. Let's go ahead and rerun that installer. Oh yeah, okay, so we need some development tools in order for this to work. Alright, so I think we need to install build essentials. Let's see if this does the trick. Alright, say yes. So this should bring down all the essential tools for building. Alright, so we should have the compiler now. Yep, alright. So let's try to run this one more time. Alright, there we go. Now it's building the kernel modules for the NVIDIA driver. Mentioning something about X, but we're not really running X. Again, we're not using this really for displaying graphics, but rather for GPU acceleration. And yes, let's install the 32-bit compatibility libraries. And would we like to run? No, we're not doing X, so we'll just go ahead and say no here. And now that's complete, and that's it. So now the driver is complete, installed, but it's not loaded yet, right? So if we, I think, or at least I don't think it's loaded. If we do lsmod, well, actually, okay, it is. I guess it automatically loaded, and we should see. Okay, let's see dmmnn vga. Alright, so let me grab that PCI address, 0600.0, and that's, so I'm grabbing the PCI address for the Quadro P2000, and if we run lspci on that, it'll show us what drivers are loaded. So kernel driver in use is now NVIDIA. Okay, so this isn't the end of this video, because it turns out that there are a few additional steps that need to be taken. So one of the steps is kind of crucial for if you're using the GPU for CUDA and other acceleration functions. So if you do a ls on dev nvidia, oops, video, okay, currently there's nothing. Okay, so that's not good. Let me just do a modprobe NVIDIA. Let's do that. I think this should automatically create those. Alright, let's... Okay, maybe not. Alright, normally when the driver loads, it creates device files in the /dev. So, not sure why. Well, we just installed it. Tell you what, let's just try rebooting this machine and see if upon reboot it will create those device files or not. That's part of the thing that's a little bit kind of complicated about this driver install, especially if you wanted to use it for CUDA and other GPU acceleration functions. Those device files have to be there. If they don't show up after reboot, I'll show you how we can fix that. So, but I just want to see what it'll do on a fresh reboot with the driver installed. And we've already blacklisted the open source driver, so that should not load at all during this reboot. So let's go ahead and see how that goes. Alright, so we're booted back up. Oops. I don't know why my keyboard is doing that, but hold on a second. Alright. Okay, we're logged back in. Let's see if the NVIDIA driver is loaded automatically. Yes, it has loaded. And let me see if it created. No, it did not. So, yeah. So the driver's loaded, but it didn't create any of the device files, and we need that in order for all this to work. So, okay, this is what we're going to have to do then. We're going to have to create some udev rules, and we'll do that in etc udev rules.d. Oops, I don't know why my keyboard keeps doing that. Alright, so let me create a file here. I'll call it 70-nvidia.rules. Alright, and let's go ahead and open that in the editor. And the rules we're going to add are here. And so I'll just type this in, but basically the first rule is, oops, okay, kernel equals NVIDIA, and this is going to run this bash shell command, nvidia-smi-l, and then set the permissions on the okay, so basically this is saying that if the NVIDIA driver gets loaded, it's going to run this command to create, I believe this creates those device files, and then we're going to set the permissions on those device files. Alright, and then the second one, and this is really important if you're planning to do the GPU acceleration stuff, run. And by the way, I'll leave this information in the description so that you guys can kind of cut and paste that if you need it. Okay, so this is going to run a slightly different command, nvidia-modprobe -c0-u, and then again we're going to change the permissions on the device files that are created by this command. Alright, so those are the two udev rules that we need. And once you write those rules, if you do a system, so what are we at? We're at 451 here. Systemctl status udev Yeah, so there are no errors here, so that's a good sign. If you see errors here, then you probably mistyped something in that new udev rule that we just created. And if you don't see any errors, then it's probably in effect already, because udev will pick up those changes automatically. Alright, so at this point, if we do a mod probe NVIDIA, I'm hoping this then, oops, no I. Okay, let me see here. Alright, let's remove the driver first. Isn't used by. Alright, well, we'll remove that too. Oh geez, okay. DRM. Alright, let's see. Move mod nvidia mode set. Okay. And let's see, are there any other NVIDIA drivers loaded right now? Move mod NVIDIA. Okay, so now if I do a mod probe NVIDIA, and let's see if it... Okay, so there we are. So now we have dev NVIDIA 0, NVIDIA CTL, so it's probably some sort of control channel. So for whatever reason, you see on other distributions, these device files are automatically created and some of the rules are already there. For whatever reason, in Debian, this is not automatic. So one other thing that I think we're going to need here is the modeset. So yeah, so we're going to have to add another rule. I'm kind of just making this up as I go here. Because this is actually my first time installing Proxmox 6.1. I've played around with this in 6.0, and that was a little bit different than this time. So anyway, this looks like it needs an additional rule. Oops, yeah, there's no Vim here. So I'm going to create, I'll base it off this other rule here, modeset. Okay, so if that driver loads, we're going to want to run dash. Oops, don't go so far. No, don't do that. Okay, dash M, and that should hopefully create the modeset device file. So I believe that is basically mode set like that. Alright, and see, does udev complain about that? No, it does not. Alright, so hopefully, yeah, I don't know if that's going to do it right now. Let's see. So if I do mod probe NVIDIA mode set, let's see. Okay, yeah, great. So it actually did create it. So there are more. Okay, so another one is mod probe, and this is the important one because this provides the interface to the CUDA GPU acceleration stuff. So if we do that, alright, so then now we get the NVIDIA UVM tools. Okay, so those are extremely important if you want to use the GPU for any CUDA related acceleration and all that stuff. Alright, so we have the udev rules now that will automatically create the device files we need. We have the driver installed. Now we have to ensure that the driver always loads. For whatever reason, I found that sometimes you reboot, and maybe it's because we don't have a graphical environment installed here, it doesn't automatically load the drivers as we need it. And so in order to force the system to load those drivers when it boots up, and then the udev rules will create these device files for us, we have to add one more configuration file. So that is going to be in etc modules dash load.v or .d, sorry. And there's nothing in here. Well, there's some things in there, but we're going to add a file for the NVIDIA driver here. And this is very simple. Basically, let's just create an empty file called nvidia.conf first. And all the files in here, I believe, have to end in a .conf file or .conf extension. And we'll edit this file. And basically, you list the drivers you want to load at boot time, one per line, basically. So let's add nvidia-modeset and nvidia-uvm. Alright, so with that in place, let's reboot the system and make sure that all that stuff actually works. Alright, so one more reboot here. I can go ahead and close this. Alright, we're booted up again. Let's log in and see if we got everything working. So first of all, let's see if all the NVIDIA drivers are loaded. Alright, so it looks like they're there. And we have to make sure that all the NVIDIA related device files are created. Alright, that's perfect. So yeah, that's basically it, guys. So that's how you install the NVIDIA driver, the latest greatest NVIDIA driver in Proxmox 6.1, which is basically Debian. This is actually the first time I'm doing this. I did do it in 6.0. And I didn't have to create that third rule for the udev to create that third device file. So for whatever reason, that seemed to be required here. So anyway, hope that you guys find that helpful. And for anybody who is going to use a NVIDIA GPU in Proxmox, and you need to get the NVIDIA drivers installed, I hope this process helps you out. And actually, you know what? One more thing. Let's actually run the nvidia-smi command and see if it works. This should work. Let's hope it does. All right, perfect. So you'll see here that it's got the driver version, CUDA version, and you'll see that currently it's a Quadro P2000. GPU fan is at 65%, temperature is at 33 Celsius, and its power usage is currently at 17 watts, and memory use is currently 0, and yeah, so and there's no process because we're not doing anything with this graphics card just yet. Okay, but we do have the drivers loaded and it appears to be working. So this is a good program to run just to kind of test that everything is working. And so you can see that it sees the graphics card, it sees the Quadro P2000 just fine. And in the next video, I'll show you how to take advantage of this in a for PLEX transcoding, okay, or GPU hardware transcoding, basically. So anyway, hope you guys found this video helpful, and give me a like if you liked it. And of course, be sure to subscribe so that you'll see more videos from me. All right, thanks a lot, guys. Bye-bye.